to the 154th session of the Virginia Annual Conference. Brought to you by the 2nd District of the AME Church. Our 5-minute countdown to begin starts now. To begin. To begin. To begin. In 1 minute, we shall begin. And now, our program starts.
Praise the Lord, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this 154th session of the Virginia Annual Conference. I'm sure, like you were not expecting to have the conference scheduled in this way. There is a word from us and several words that will be played in a moment. Let me first, though, before we go any further, express my sincere appreciation to the team of persons that have made this seamless and possible. I'm sure that once we see how well planned the team has gone in, I'm sure that you will admire the work of the team as I do. There is a story told about the Big Ben clock in London. It said that on one day it struck 13 times. It had a habit of striking once every hour. That day it struck 13 times for 12 o'clock. Somebody commented, "We have never seen this time before." And certainly we have never seen the time that we're in right now. We are products of our past, but we don't have to be prisoners to our past. Thank God for your openness. Thank God for your willingness to share those opportunities to help advance others who may not be technically savvy as you are, and bringing them into this new age. Congratulations, and protocol will be set momentarily. Hear the message for opening.
No, the light sounds.
To our dedicated presiding elders, pastors, other clergy, district component committees, ministry leaders, and lay, inclusive of all of our children, youth, and young adults in the 2nd Episcopal District, and all others who have joined us in this historic 2020 virtual session of these series of annual conferences of the 2nd District. Aurelius and I greet you humbly with thanksgiving for God's blessings. Our God is and has existed for eternity and all-knowing, all-powerful, and ever-present in every time and space. Thus we still have hope and walk in faith, for we know His love endures forever. As we begin planning in January for our series of annual conference, this is not how Aurelius and I imagine the communication format of our annual conferences would be, that is virtually. Indeed, these past months has brought some of the deepest sorrows. The COVID-19 pandemic and the horrific death of George Floyd by the policeman's knee on his neck have changed everything except our deep love for you and the desire to keep you safe. These two catastrophic events, COVID-19 and the killing of George Floyd, were the tipping points for the American people and people all over the world. Nevertheless, we praise God that the closed church doors did not stop ministry. We're profoundly grateful for the numerous conference calls, Zooms, webinar meetings, and other media platforms that have kept us in touch and continuing our work of kingdom living and kingdom building. Though Aurelius and I have wished for other circumstances, indeed these past months have brought some of the deepest sorrows. Even so, the roll call lets us know how blessed we are to be yet alive and see each other's face, even though we have to see each other virtually. For those who've lost loved ones as a result of COVID-19, other health complications, and a range of circumstances, our heart ache with you, and we are praying for you. We can rest in the assurance that our loved ones are now at home with our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. We pray for those who are recovering in hospitals and at home. May these challenging and uncertain times find us working even closer together so that our families, our churches, our communities, our nation, and our world will all thrive. We thank the conference committees who have used their skills for countless hours planning, preparing for effective and efficient implementation of these two virtual annual conferences, or these two-day virtual annual conferences. In these two-day periods, we will cover all the essential business that we must cover and approved by the annual conference delegates for implementation. We are grateful to our presiding elders, pastors, annual conference officers, and all the members of the church for your creativity in utilizing social media and other forms of technology to get the word of God to the ears of listeners, both locally and globally. Greater is coming.
Bishop James L. Davis, Mother Aurelius B. Davis, and the 2nd Episcopal District would like to welcome you to the 154th session of the Virginia Annual Conference, virtually July 20th and 21st.
Brothers and sisters, I hope that you will join me in saying to the devil, you will not defeat us. We are going to have an annual conference, and we're going to have a good annual conference. We now officially call the 154th session of the Virginia Annual Conference to order. The first order of business is that of approving the agenda. May I have a motion? And I'm understanding that Presiding Elder Morris will offer the motion for, or Dr. Scott will offer the motion for the approval, and Dr. Cross will second it unless there's an unreadiness.
So, Bishop, I do move that we approve of the agenda for the 154th session of the Virginia Annual Conference.
Bishop, I so move, second the motion, Aretha Cross.
All right, you've heard the motion. The motion is that we approve the printed agenda of the Virginia Annual Conference. Each of you should have both the first set and the second set, because time is filled with swift transition. It is the second set that they are offering the motion for now. Is there an unreadiness? Are you ready for the question? I will pause long enough for you to go to the chat box if you have an unreadiness and register your unreadiness.
I got it. Okay.
I'm asking the people who are handling the Q&A boxes, are we there? Not seeing any. All those in favor, let me know by saying aye. Opposes, nay. Ayes have it, and so ordered. Thank you so very much for the formality of getting the agenda into the records. The first order of business would be normally your roll call. Today, however, because of the efficiency of our secretarial staff and the technical team that is helping to move us into this new way of doing things, the roll is being checked already. There are some transfers that we can receive right now. And I'm asking the secretaries if they are prepared to read the names of the transfers so that we can bring them into the conference.
Bishop Davis, I have one transfer, and that is David Brown,
transferring from the 5th Episcopal District in the Southern
right.
California Conference.
All right. And his church affiliation in the 2nd is where?
I do not have that information.
Okay. Which presiding elder provided this information? Or it was not provided by the presiding elder. So the presiding elders need to be made aware of wherever he is associating himself so that we can make sure that he's accounted for in the future. Let me just give you one excused absent, and that is for Reverend Tanya Mays,
Okay.
who has been excused due to travel, out of the country travel. And I think that's everything. Let me express to those who will hear the roll call tomorrow what Dr. Gloucester has been extremely has provided a wonderful explanation of how this process will go. Tomorrow at the first session, we will announce through the secretaries those that we have not been able to give an accounting of. If you still don't register yourself on one of those calls, then you will be marked absent on the roll of the conference. And I think that's self-explanatory. With that being said, let me call for the presiding elders to give their summary reports. I'm calling Presiding Elder Chester Morris first, and he might come along with Presiding Elder Hayward to make sure that we move expeditiously. Come on, they will be posted on the screen, and if you will go on and read them as they're posted.
Yes, sir, Bishop. First of all, may I thank you for the opportunity to serve the Northeastern Shore District, and I want to grateful for the report that's been provided for the pastors and laypersons of the district. And thank you for the privilege to serve and preside Elder Haywood as we work together for the best interests of the annual conference. General budget, $65,691. General conference sustentation, $2,469.91. Annual conference support, $1,813. Annual conference pre-offering, $6,160. Sustentation, $13,000. SED education fund, $2,750.05. Periodicals, $5,301. Annuity and insurance for the PE, $6,200. Annuity and insurance for the pastors, $37,185.20. Quadrennial support, $1,700. Retirement support, $2,266. Grand total, $144,536.16. Report from the district.
Thank you, Bishop, for allowing me to serve on the Portsmouth-Richmond-Roanoke District, the mighty Portsmouth-Richmond-Roanoke District. And I thank the very fine people of helping us to do the work that has been entrusted to our care. General budget, $68,447. General conference sustentation, $4,852. Annual conference support, $10,044.11. Annual conference pre-offering, $7,260. Sustentation, $10,824.07. Second Episcopal District Education Fund, $2,820. Periodicals, $4,690. Annuity insurance presiding elder, $4,000. Annuity insurance for pastors, $41,336. Quadrennial support, $5,556.63. Retirement support, $480.03. Grand total, $160,309.84. The report. Thank you for allowing me to serve.
accept the reports into the minutes? Go ahead, Reverend Morris. You can go first in so moving.
Okay, I so move.
Okay, and Reverend Hayward, you may go to second the motion.
Second the motion.
All right. You've heard the motion has been properly moved and seconded. Is there unreadiness to the process? We are not going through rote. We are really trying to make sure that whatever responses, reactions you have to the annual conference, you have a chance to say that. It just becomes a different process for doing so. I'm talking now just in case there is an unreadiness. If there is, please register it in the Q&A box, or at least register the fact you have an unreadiness, and then go back to type in what your unreadiness is. And those on the backside will help me to know if that is the case. Are you able to see that? Okay. All those in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposes? Ayes have it and so ordered. Thank you so very much for the report. Let me go back because my eyes aren't so good. Let me ask the presiding elder, Morris, now to go back and read the organizational recommendations so that we can elect the officers of the conference.
Yes, sir, Bishop.
It will be up on the screen shortly. It will wait till it gets up on the screen.
Okay, sure. All right, thank you.
Go ahead.
Conference administrative staff, Secretary, Dr. Julian Bowser, Associate, Reverend Sherry Garrett, Assistant Secretary, Reverend Madeline Medley, Statistician, Reverend Billy Hunter, Assistant Statistician, Reverend Gilbert Hopper, Finance Committee, Reverend Christian Savage, Chairperson, Reverend Andre Jefferson Jr., Treasurer, Reverend Vanessa Copeland, Secretary, followed by the Reverend Rupert Board, Reverend Amy Ziegler, Reverend John Swan Jr., Reverend Vernon Ricks, Sister Matilda Watson, Sister Linda Gray, Sister Shirley Carter. Conference supportive staff, Marshall, Reverend Ronald Freeman Sr., Reverend Anthony Rogers. Conference trustees, Bernard Holmes Secretary, Reverend Dr. Ern Gill, Reverend Andre P. Jefferson Sr., P.E. Chester Morris, Reverend Dr. Andres Cornett Scott, Reverend Samuel E. Haywood III, P.E., Sister Valerie Terry. Judicial Committee, Reverend Chester Morris, P.E., Reverend Gwendolyn Mata, Reverend Olivia Collins, Reverend Dr. Everett Scott, Reverend Granger Flife, Reverend Kevin Wilson. Budget Committee, Reverend Kenneth L. Ruff, Reverend Sherry Gibbs, Brother James Gee. Red Board of Trustees, Reverend Darrell Wade, term expires 220, Reverend Dr. Aretha Cross, term expires 220, Reverend Curtis Hurley, term expired 221. Seminary Education, Reverend Vanessa Copeland, Clergy Care Assistance Program, Reverend Olivia Collins, Reverend Amy Ziegler, Reverend Madeline Medley. Clergy Recruitment, Reverend Andre Jefferson Jr., Reverend Sherry Garrett. Disaster Relief, Reverend Dr. Aretha Cross, Reverend Alfred Van, Reverend Billy Ray Hunter. Second District Community Development Corporation, Reverend Darrell Wade, Reverend Brother Darrell Watson Sr., Reverend Vanessa Copeland. I so move, Bishop, the election of those individuals.
Bishop, I second the motion, that organization, sir.
Bishop, Reverend Morris read off for Treasurer, Reverend Andre Jefferson Jr. I was wondering if that adjustment could be.
Yeah, it's senior. I read that wrong.
Okay.
All right, it's corrected. Let me just say a word of explanation. I have your motion on the floor. You ready for the question?
Yes, sir.
Unreadiness, Bishop.
Okay, the unreadiness, and it's coming from whom?
Dr. Scott.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Orrin Gill is no longer a member of our district, is he?
No, he is not. Thank you. Thank you.
Also, Reverend Gibbs, Bishop. Sherry Gibbs.
Mm-hmm. And Sherry Gibbs' name is where? It's on the Budget Committee.
Budget Committee, yes, sir.
And she's no longer a member of your conference either.
She's in the Western Conference.
Okay. Would you like now, or we come back to it, to suggest a name for conference trustee? Or we'll come back to it before the conference is over. That's what we'll do. Can we, with those two exceptions, please understand that those boards that have time limitations, even though their names are mentioned here, we still abide by the bylaws, that whatever those bylaws are. So we don't mean to make it happen by rote. If their term has expired, then we are renominating them for the red board, particularly where I see that. And I know that the CDC has a 2-year commitment, which means that this year it will expire for all of those persons on there, because it was only for 2 years. And so I just wanted the conference to take note of that. You've heard those two unreadiness. You ready for the question? All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Okay. And I think that they are trying to tell me you have the ability to vote while you are doing this, if you will go to your chat page. Okay. Let me go on to ask now. Thank you, presiding elders. Thank you, members of the conference, for your wonderful support of the denomination, because these are not products of the presiding elder, of the bishop. These are products of the people who still yet believe. And so we thank you for yet believing and making that belief count tangibly towards the care of the denomination. Thank you very much. When you end this conference, a copy and a detachment of the presiding elder district budget will be sent to every single church and everybody in the conference, as is supposed to be done. Okay, thank you. Come on, let's thank you, elders. Let's call now the Board of Examiners. Dr. Scott.
Bishop Reverend Harper will be reading the report for the Board of Examiners.
All right, all right. And each of you should have a copy of it, but go right ahead.
Good morning, Bishop.
Good morning.
The Board of Examiners, the Virginia Annual Conference Board of Examiners presents the following individuals requesting admission, and there were none this year, Bishop.
All right.
The first year class, the Virginia Annual Conference Board of Examiners presents the following candidates of the first year class of studies: Rita Hill Charity, age 40, from St. Paul in Newport News, and Marie Murphy, age 57, New Mount Olive in Chesapeake. The recommendation, the Virginia Annual Conference Board of Examiners recommends the following candidates be advanced to the second year class of studies: Rita Hill Charity and Marie Murphy.
All right.
Bishop,
Yes.
Bishop, I move that Sister Rita Hill Charity and Sister Marie Murphy be advanced to the second year class of studies.
Second.
All right. It's been properly moved and seconded that the recommendation of the board be accepted. You've heard the motion. Ready for the question? I will pause long enough for you to go to the box now. Yes is there, no is there. If you go on and fill it out now, so that those persons who are handling the back, there it is right there. You can go and fill out your desire and submit. It will tell us immediately. Have you had a chance to vote?
Mm-hmm.
Have you had a
Yes.
chance to vote? All right, let me
Yes.
see the results of the vote. All right. All right. Thank you so very much. I appreciate it. So, Reverend, all of these reports have been done, and we have interviewed all of these persons separately as we would have done during the person or face-to-face annual conference. We've examined these persons and we commend them for the faith that the conference places in them now in advancing them to second year class of studies. All right, go right ahead.
Second year class, the Virginia Annual Conference Board of Examiners presents the following candidates of the second year class of studies. Pamela Jones Watford, age 56, Macedonia, Suffolk. Katrina Staples, age 55, Bethel Hampton, and Robin Hopkins, age 58, Bethel Rocky Mount.
All right. And what is the pleasure of the board?
The Virginia Annual Conference Board of Examiners recommend the following candidate who moved from the local track to the itinerant track be advanced to the third year class of studies, Robin Hopkins.
And I say to the conference that all of the, let me get the motion on the floor. Go right ahead. Go right ahead. Who wants to second that?
I so move, Bishop.
Okay. All right. It's been moved. Is there a second? Is there a second?
I second, Bishop.
All right. Okay. It's been moved and seconded that the board's recommendation for Reverend Robin Hopkins be accepted, and for the purpose of the conference, she meets all of the requirements to do the transfer from local to itinerant. She is in school now. She's committed to that, and she feels a great calling on her life to make ministry a more integrated part of who she is. And so congratulations, Reverend Hopkins. Congratulations, board, for the recommendation. Go right ahead.
The Virginia Annual Conference Board of Examiners recommends the following candidates be elected to be ordained itinerant deacons in the African Methodist Episcopal Church and advance to the third year studies, Pamela Jones Watford and Katrina Staples. And the Virginia Annual Conference Board of Examiners recommends the.
Let me take that part. Let me take that part first, since the second is more of what we're doing as a result of my request. So yes, let's take the first part first. The board's recommendation is that Sister Wofford and Sister Staples be elected for ordination at the appropriate time. You've heard, did I receive a motion on that?
I so move, Bishop.
Okay. Is there a second?
I second, Bishop.
All right. It's been properly moved and seconded that the board's recommendation be accepted where Pamela Jones Wofford and Katrina Staples are concerned. You've heard the motion. You're ready for the question?
Question.
All those in favor, go to your chat box and register yourself in the poll that's put up there. Yes or no? Okay, we're just waiting on the results. All right, 100%. So thank you very much. Congratulations, Sister Wofford, Sister Staples. Understand that, and the conference should understand that we will not be having ordination right now, you know, and that's the reason the motion is so printed. Be elected to be ordained an itinerant deacon whenever that is. But we are not going to hold those of you up that we have need of. We're not going to hold you up. we are going to be saying something to local churches and to you before we leave this annual conference. Thank you and congratulations to Sister Wofford and Sister Staples. God bless you. All right. All right. Go right ahead.
The Virginia Annual Conference Board of Examiners recommends the following candidate be elected to be ordained an itinerant deacon under the missionary rule in the African Methodist Episcopal Church and advance to the third year class of studies. Rita Hill Charity.
And just for the sake of those who may not know, the law of the church allows, in cases of emergency need, for us, if all the other requirements are met, allows for us to bring a person in and ordain them at the deacon's order or level just because we have need of them. And in the Virginia Annual Conference, we have received the report of the chairperson and the dean, and we have found Sister Rita Hill Charity, after talking with her, to be a serious-minded candidate for ministry, who her family has joined her in a commitment to, I said jokingly, but most seriously, joined her into the commitment of taking a drive. You know, and so we thank her for her seriousness about ministry and understanding that we are about the business of meeting the needs of the people wherever they are, and that sometimes is uncomfortable for those of us who choose to put ourselves in that place. So congratulations, Sister Charity, and you'll be hearing from us before this conference is over with directions as to what will happen after talking to these local churches. All right, go right ahead.
I so move, Bishop.
All right.
Second, Bishop.
All right, is there a second?
I second, Bishop. This is Boyd.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded that the recommendation of the board and the request of the bishop's office be accepted. You've heard the motion and ready for the question. Please go to the chat box and make your desires known there. All right, are we ready? 100%. Thank God for it. Okay, go ahead. Continue.
The Virginia Annual Conference Board of Examiners presents the following candidates of the third year class of studies.
We're losing you, Reverend Harper.
Yeah.
Reverend Harper?
Yes, sir.
Reverend Harper, we lose you. We lose you when you turn. So you need to.
I was trying to read from my paper. Okay.
I see. All right.
Virginia Annual Conference Board of Examiners presents the following candidates of the third year class of studies. Tori DeKine, age 42, 3rd Street, Bethel. Timothy D. Dorsey, age 32, 3rd Street, Bethel. Douglas Strand, age 51, Gaskins Chapel, Onancock. And Alan White, age 55, St. Paul, Portsmouth.
Mm-hmm.
Bishop, I move
All
that the
right.
third year students, Tori Decline, Timothy D. Dorsey, Douglas Strand, and Alan White be moved to the fourth year class.
All right. All right. It's been properly moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there a second?
Second, Andrea Cornett.
Okay. Okay. All right. You've heard the motion that the Board of Examiners' recommendation be accepted relative to the third year being advanced to the fourth year class. And those 4 persons who are listed, you've heard the motion, ready for a question. All those in favor, let it be known by the vote on your chat, and go straight to it. It's fine. Okay. All right, thank you so very much. Go right ahead.
The Virginia Annual Conference Board of Examiners presents the following candidates of the fourth year class of studies. Jasmine Brooks, age 26, New Union Chapel, Norfolk. Michael Gray, age 63, New Mount Olive, Chesapeake. Michelle Jochum, age 54, Mount Zion, Virginia Beach. Christina Haywood, age 39, Bethel Hampton. Marvette Hines Decree, age 59, St. John's, Norfolk. Kimberly Turner Neal, age 53, Greater St. Andrews, Virginia Beach. Jack Mumford, age 79, Meadowview, Fieldale. Shanita Richardson, age 55, Bethel Harrisonburg. And Anthony Rogers, age 58, 3rd Street, Bethel. The recommendations, the Virginia Annual Conference Board of Examiners recommend the following candidate be removed from the Board of Examiners, honoring his request to superannuate: Jack Mumford.
And the others to remain in the fourth year class?
No, sir, two other recommendations.
Okay, let's do that then. All right, let me deal with your first recommendation. Go ahead. I'm waiting for somebody to tell me what you want to do. I understand that the report says that Reverend Mumford is going to superannuate and asking to be removed from the Board of Examiners because of his decision to superannuate. Got that. Now give me a motion to accept the report of the Board of Examiners.
So moved, Bishop. Reverend Edward Scott making the motion.
Okay. All right. It's been moved by Reverend Scott. Dr. Scott, who seconded?
Second, Andre Jefferson.
It's been seconded by Reverend Andre Jefferson Sr. Go to, you've heard the motion, ready for the question? Go to your polling. I've been corrected on saying chat box. Go to your polling and vote now for what you want to do with the report.
Bishop, there's a technology there. The age of Reverend Mumford is 73. He may look like 79, but he's 73. For the record.
And that is to say,
he's 73,
okay,
not
the board
79.
will correct or
Oh, I thought I said 73.
the board will, is it 73 on the report?
Yes, sir.
It's 73 on the report. So slip of the tongue, we got you. Okay. All right. He's a young man. All right. Come on. It is passed. Thank you so very much. Go ahead, board.
The Virginia Annual Conference Board of Examiners recommends the following candidate be elected to be ordained itinerant elder in the African Methodist Episcopal Church: Michelle Jochum.
It is moved, Bishop, that Michelle Jochum be elected and ordained elder in our church.
All right.
Second motion, Bishop. Second motion, Bishop.
All right. All right. If you would announce yourself just in case, so they can get it in the minutes.
Reverend Timothy L. Smith.
All right. Thank you so very much. The report of the Board of Examiners concerning the recommendation of Reverend Michelle Jochum is now on the floor. You've heard the motion. Ready for the question?
Question.
All those in favor, let it be known by going to the what you call them? What is that thing called again? The poll. All right. All right. I got you. All right. Okay. Okay, thank you so very much. The motion is passed. Go ahead.
The Virginia Annual Conference Board of Examiners recommends the following candidate be elected to be ordained itinerant elder in the African Methodist Episcopal Church contingent upon completion of the Master of Divinity requirements in August of 2020. Jasmine Brooks.
This is Reverend Edward Scott making the motion that Reverend Jasmine Brooks be elected and ordained an itinerant elder in the African Methodist Episcopal Church contingent upon completion of the MDiv requirements in August of 2020.
All right, is there a second?
Second, Reuben Boyd.
Is there a second?
Second, Reuben Boyd.
Oh, okay, all right. You've heard the motion, ready for the question? Go to the polling place and let your desire be known. Okay. While that's coming up, let me congratulate Reverend Brooks on a wonderful presentation yesterday. The motion is passed. Let me congratulate her on a wonderful presentation on yesterday, and God bless her thoroughness of wanting to make a difference where she is. Okay, come on. Next.
The local classes.
Excuse me, before we go on, I think it needs to be noted that Michael Gray, Christina Hayward, Marbette Hines Decree, Kimberly Turner Neal, Janita Richardson, and Anthony Rogers will remain in the fourth year class until the completion of their educational requirements.
Okay, give me a motion to that end.
Edward.
So moved, Bishop.
All right, it's been so moved.
Seconded.
The fourth year class, that the report of the fourth year class Board of Examiners be accepted with retaining the persons until they finish their educational requirements. You've heard the motion. Ready for this, for the question? All those in favor, go to the polling place. All right. All right. All right. Congratulations, Reverend Guy. Congratulations.
She's presented in the local class. The Virginia Annual Conference Board of Examiners presents the following individual requesting admission to the annual conference. Florinda Guy, age 63, from Campbell's Chapel in Carrollton.
Now, help me to understand why you made mention of that. Was that not on here? The Virginia Annual Conference Board of Examiners present the following requesting admission to the annual conference. This is so the report does not say local.
The only original, it did say local classes.
Okay,
is what I'm reading.
The original should mirror what is going to happen with what the secretaries received this time. So get that sheet corrected and give it to the secretaries, because it should say local.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All
yes,
right.
sir.
Bishop
right,
Davis, a point of clarification for the minutes. This particular case, so she's being admitted, I know there's going to be something coming to clarify that, but in the beginning, the board said no one was coming to the conference this year. So are we saying now we have one?
That was on the itinerary.
They were dealing not with the locals, but
Okay.
now they're dealing with the locals. That's all. They
Okay.
made the distinction of locals. That's all.
Okay.
That's all. They just need to straighten out that report and give it to you. Okay. You've heard the motion. Has there been a motion made?
No, sir, we haven't read the recommendation yet.
Okay.
The Virginia Annual Conference Board of Examiners recommends the following individual be admitted on trial and advance to the first year local studies.
Okay.
So moved, Bishop.
Second.
It's been moved by Reverend, I think Reverend Harper, is that right? And seconded by who? Reverend Smith?
Scott.
Reverend Scott. All right, you heard the motion. Ready for the question? All those in favor, let it be known by going to the polling station. Okay. All right. Thank you. The motion is passed.
The Virginia Annual Conference Board of Examiners presents the following candidates for local orders. Inetha Boone Rogers, age 56, St. Paul, Portsmouth. John Brabble, age 60, Rehoboth, Chesapeake. Jennifer Devereaux, age 64, St. Paul, Portsmouth. The Virginia Annual Conference Board of Examiners recommends the following candidates be elected to be ordained local deacons in the African Methodist Episcopal Church for their local churches. Inetha Boone Rogers, John Brabble, and Jennifer Devereaux.
So moved.
Second, Cornette Scott.
Boyd. So moved.
All right, it's been moved by whom?
Reuben Boyd.
Reverend Boyd, seconded by Dr. Scott. And all of these persons, as you were told during the board, you must show justification and need for local orders. Okay, you've heard the motion, the recommendation. You've heard the motion being made. What, are you ready for the question?
Question.
All those in favor or not, go to the polling place and make your wish known. Okay. All right. Thank you. The motion is passed. Thank you so very much. Go ahead and give me a motion to accept the entire report and as one document, and I will go on and receive that and be moving on.
Bishop, I move that we receive the report as one document.
Second.
All right. All right, it's been properly moved and seconded that the Virginia Conference, the motion is that we accept the report of the Virginia Annual Conference Board of Examiners as one document to approve all that has been said. You've heard the motion, ready for the question?
Question.
All those in favor, let it be known by going to the poll. All right, and the members of the board, Timothy Smith, Dr. Scott, Dr. Harper, Reverend Harper, Reverend Boyd, Dr. Scott, again, Edward Scott, Reverend Andre Jefferson, Reverend Aretha Cross, and Reverend Vanessa Copeland and Christian Savage. And there are others who serve at the pleasure of the board for advice and consultation. All right. Thank you. The motion has passed. Thank you so very much for your helping us through the Board of Examiners. Let me just commend the board, as I will be doing throughout the annual conferences, because not a step was missed in the midst of this COVID. You know, and I'm so appreciative, and this presents to us a totally new opportunity that we've been forced into. But just think about it now. It's not my idea. In fact, the idea came from somebody on your board who said to me, called me up and said, Bishop, wouldn't it be something if we could get Dr. Dickerson to teach church history, since we are meeting virtually like this for all conferences at one time, and get someone who is in social justice, even amidst our own, Reverend Lamar and others, to take on the gospel and social justice right here. The opportunities, we complain about the problem, but the real truth of the matter is the problem has presented us with wonderful opportunities to see ourselves differently. And so, Board of Examiners, thank you. Thank you for a job well done. And wherever the conference is meeting right now, I just ask them, even though you can't see them, everybody just wave at the board and say, great job, board. All right. God bless you. We are now moving into our conference institute, and it is, I think we have a lead-in video for the presentation of Bishop Barber, and then I will come back and say a word before he comes on. Is that the way it's supposed to happen? While they're trying to bring that up, I want to again thank all of our guests to the conference, those who will be making special presentations today. I think that they are telling me to tell you that if you're not speaking, you need to turn yourself off, turn your picture off, turn your voice off if you're not speaking at this time. We are extremely excited about making sure that wherever we are inviting others into finding a way to connect on the right side of history. There has been an ad hoc committee that has been working hard to make sure that we don't miss this opportunity. Someone said that find a good fight and get in it. Bishop Barber has done just that. He has found a good fight and he's found a way to get in it. He's the founder of the National Call for Moral Revival and the co-chair of the National People's Campaign. I am so very grateful to Bill Lamar, who made the connection for us. And now hear the words of presentation for Dr. Barber, and he will join us.
We must be honest about the foundations of the political and economic systems we call America. I love America because of her potential, but I know that America will never even get close to being a more perfect nation until we are honest about the politics of rejection.
I want to tell you about some of the leaders who are building the Poor People's Campaign. Callie Greer from Selma, Alabama, who had to bury her daughter, Venus, because she didn't have health care.
I'm here today to share my daughter Venus's story. Venus discovered a small lump in her breast and she wasn't insured. Venus had to be approved for every prescription and every piece of medical equipment that she needed. I'm standing here today in solidarity with the Poor People's Campaign because no one should have to bury their child in America because they don't have health care insurance.
I'm 46 years old. I've lived in poverty here in West Virginia every day of my life. And I'm working. I am working poor with a bachelor's degree. I'm doing the best I can with what I have.
I'm a second generation fast food worker and I've experienced the cycle of poverty firsthand. Growing up, I watched my mother endure long hours of back-breaking labor, doing everything she could to feed me and my sisters. My employer barely pays me enough to pay rent and utilities, let alone with the medical expenses with my mother.
I worked 41 years in the coal mines. I have black lung, and it's just unfathomable what these poor coal miners have to go through in order to get what they have worked for and deserve.
I'm a Vietnam veteran. My only chance of going to college was joining the Army.
It was one thing to know that you didn't have water and you couldn't afford your water. It's a whole nother to find out that they shut off your entire community and none of you matter.
But when I lost my housing, health care, and income all at the same time, I was terrified, panicked.
Hi, my name is Pamela Roach. I'm from Lowndes County, Alabama. And I live in a mobile home with my 2 kids. And I got raw sewage. I don't have no money. I'm poor. And I have to travel back and forth to Birmingham to take my daughter with the CPAP machine. Don't have a car and don't have no way to take her.
This is the largest encampment in Aberdeen. There's about 1,000 people in a town of 16,000 who are homeless.
In my community, we were all shut off in the day because none of us could afford our water bills. In the past, my family wasn't able to afford electricity in the winter. It was very hard on all of us.
This wall, this is sin of the highest order.
When there are 38 million poor children, when 60% of African Americans are poor, when 65% of Latinx are poor, when 40% of Asians are poor, when there are 67 million poor white people, we must say, this is not right.
Somebody's hurting our people, and it's gone on far too long, and we won't be silent anymore.
Our brothers and sisters are sleeping on the streets. For a country this rich to have so many people poor, it's immoral and it's wrong.
Our backs are against the wall, and we got no choice but to push.
We lift our voices for justice. We put our bodies on the line for mercy. And together we will proclaim liberty throughout the land for the enslaved, for the poor, and for us all.
All of that breaking news in Albany, where a large group of protesters have moved into the street.
Washington Avenue between City Hall and Lark Street closed down.
Protesters with the Poor People's Campaign of Indiana.
2 o'clock on the East Coast, 2 o'clock in the middle, 2 o'clock on the West Coast. A wave, and the historians tell us it's never happened before.
Our communities, Muslim communities, who have joined the Poor People's Campaign, you can count on us.
Our democracy is in trouble.
Our democracy is in trouble.
And we come to demand.
And we come to demand. Second warning.
Because it's crucial that we make ourselves heard. No one is listening. We write letters, we make calls. No one is listening. So we gotta find a way to make ourselves heard.
We are the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival. And we are here. We are poor. We are clergy. And we're here to say to our nation's capital and to the highest court in this land that everybody has a right to live. Everybody has a right to learn. Everybody has a right to love. Everybody has a right to living wages. Everybody has a right to vote. Everybody has a right to thrive in this society.
Everybody say, "Ah!"
I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win. Freedom fighter, and he taught us how to fight.
The poor and their clergy. We read Article 6 of the Kentucky State Constitution that says we have a right to free assembly.
We are demanding that we stop the war on our poor.
We demand the right to vote. We're formally against it. You need to cease and desist immediately or you'll be arrested.
There will be a movement that will break through the con and bring people together to save the heart and the soul of this democracy and this world.
So, Bishop, as Dr. Barber, just a word to say to the people as Congressman Lewis exits from the scene with a wonderful contribution. We welcome you to the platform, leading in the way in which you are. Welcome to the Virginia Annual Conference. Go right ahead.
Thank you so much. We give honor to God today and to His Son Jesus Christ, and the power of the Holy Spirit. Bishop Davis, thank you so much for allowing me to come and to bring some words from the movement
as you sit in the lineage of people like Bishop Henry McNeil Turner. I was just reading about him 2 days ago, as he stood and as the AME Church has stood for justice all these many years. And to Reverend Lamar, thank you so much. We actually announced that we were going to form the Poor People's Campaign in 2017 at the church that Reverend Lamar pastors in Washington, D.C. And so we're thankful. I know the time is critical on today, so I want to get right into these issues. When we talk about the church and we talk about the movement, as John Lewis often talked about, we forget that the March on Washington in '63, John Lewis didn't just talk about voting. He said, we march today for jobs and freedom. And he said, whatever bills we pass must take care of the sharecropper in Mississippi and must take care of the maid who makes $5 a week in a household where they make $100,000 a year. He said, forget anyone. We know, to the members of the Virginia Conference, that for the church, we must root what we do, not as Democrats or Republicans, not as left or right, as people of faith. Our politics are the politics of God. And the Bible has more than 2,000 scriptures in the Bible that tell us how we should treat the poor, the women, the children, and the stranger or the immigrant, and what the Bible calls the least of these. More than 2,000 scriptures. In fact, the only sin in the Bible that's done than mistreatment of the least of these is idolatry, self-worship, and narcissism, particularly when we see it engaged by those who claim to be leaders or rulers at the top of the political order. There are some scriptures that guide us in the Poor People's Campaign. One of them is Zechariah chapter 7, verse 8 through 10. And the word of the Lord came to Zechariah to tell the nation, this is what the Lord says, administer justice, show mercy and compassion to one another. Do not oppress the widow and the children or the immigrants or the poor, and do not plot evil against one another. We also look at Jeremiah 22. This is what the Lord says. Go down to the palace of the king and tell the king. Notice it doesn't just say send a letter. It says go down to the palace and tell the king what is right. Rescue from the hand of the oppressor, those who are being robbed by the system. This is from the Message Bible. Do no wrong or violence to the foreigner, the children, the widows, and do not shed innocent blood in this place. We also know in the book of Amos, we often hear, let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. But before you get to that particular passage, if you go just back a few verses in Amos 5, it says, God says, I'm looking for a remnant who will lament in the public square, who will cry in the public square until we shut down the malls and shut down the streets. And then I will make my visit. And of course, Jesus, at the beginning of his ministry, he said, the Spirit of the Lord look forward is upon me because he's anointed me to preach good news to the poor. And the word there for poor, there are three words in Greek that could be translated for poor, but the word put there on the lips of Jesus is ptokos, P-T-C-H-O-S, which literally means those who have been made poor by systems of economic exploitation. And so it is clear that the church, the people of God, are supposed to be engaged in challenging the injustices of this society as a matter of faith, not just a matter of partisan, but as a matter of faith, regardless of who is in office. And by the way, reflecting again on the death of John Lewis and C.T. Vivian, they stood up. It didn't matter what the party was. They challenged Kennedy. John Lewis challenged him at the March on Washington and said,
The bill he was proposing was good, but it was not good enough because he was looking at it through the lens of faith. But if this is the case, and if it's the case according to the words of God, then we have to raise the question, who are the poor? Who are the strangers? Who are the broken? Who are those today? And what do the statistics tell us about where we must be engaged as people of faith? Well, let me share, take a 3-day lecture and break it down into this 30 minutes. We believe in the Poor People's Campaign. And excuse me, by the way, not only is this biblical, but constitutional. And in our founding documents, the Declaration of Independence says, when there is a long train of abuse against life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, the people have the right to alter the way in which the government is moving. And the Constitution said there are 5 fundamental moral foundations that we should use, a foundation that moral principles that we should, if you will, exegete every piece of public policy based on them. Does it establish justice? Does it provide for the common defense? Does it promote the general welfare? Does it ensure domestic tranquility? And does this law or this policy guarantee equal protection under the law? In the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival, you can go there by simply going to www.poorpeoplescampaign.org or www.June2020. Just a few weeks ago, we had a mass Poor People's Assembly moral march on Washington. Now, we weren't in the street, we were digital just like you are, because we were advised by our public health specialists not to. We could put people on planes. We had planned to be on Pennsylvania Avenue, June the 20th, and we would have had 500,000 people or more there. But a few weeks ago, we had 2.7 million people together for the mass Poor People's Assembly moral march on Washington, D.C., to hear poor and impacted people of every race, creed, color, and sexuality lay out their conditions, but also talk about what the solutions are. We now have 45 coordinating committees in 45 states, and we have an agenda called the moral platform for the healing of the nation. Again, you can go to www.June2020 to see those things. But we believe there are 5 interlocking injustices, Bishop, 5 of them. Number 1, systemic racism. The church must stand a challenge. And when we say systemic racism, we mean it in all of its forms. Police violence, yes, but also voter suppression, and resegregation of public schools, and mass incarceration, and also the mistreatment of our Latino brothers and sisters, and the continued mistreatment of our indigenous brothers and sisters. We're talking about racism in all of its forms, and racism is about policy. One of the things we're saying to people is that it's okay to pull down a statue, but if the statutes, can you hear me? If the statutes are still there, we still have work to do. They're telling me I need to put my headsets on, so I'm gonna do that to make sure that people can hear well. Hold on just a second. All right, you should be able to hear even better now. So systemic racism. Then we must address systemic poverty, and then ecological devastation, and then the war economy, and then the false moral narrative of religious nationalism and white evangelicalism that tries to tell us that God is not on the side of justice. We have to challenge that kind of religious nationalism. So what is the reality in these areas? Well, the reality is right now, we look at, for instance, I'm gonna give you some numbers, voter suppression. We've had for 26 states, including Virginia, since 2010, 26 states since 2010 have passed racist voter suppression laws. And every state that has passed racist voter suppression laws have also been states that have denied the Affordable Care Act and have the highest levels of poverty. You should know that. We should also know that it's been 2,500 plus days that the current leader of the Senate, Senator McConnell, has blocked fixing the Voting Rights Act that many people bled and died for. 2,500 days. June 25th, 2013, the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act, but they said the Congress could fix it. For 2,500 plus days, the Congress under McConnell has refused to even hear the bill, to even take it up. Now, Strom Thurmond, he filibustered the Civil Rights Act of 1957 for one day, and we called him a racist. Strom Thurmond was a senator from South Carolina who was one of the architects of the Southern Strategy, a strategy Dr. King said was designed to split poor blacks and poor whites from one another so that they wouldn't form political alliances based on a moral agenda and change the country, and particularly change the South. All of the states that have done voter suppression represent 54% of all African-American voters. You say, well, Reverend Barber, what does voter suppression do? We can still vote. Well, we can, but when you suppress the vote or you abridge the right to vote, here are the results. For instance, the current president was selected by the Electoral College. He received the Electoral College victory by winning Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. In Wisconsin, he won by 30,000 votes, but 250,000 were suppressed through racialized voter suppression. In Michigan, he won by 10,000 votes, but 100,000 votes, 100,000 African Americans in Detroit alone did not vote. And in Pennsylvania, he won by a few thousand votes, and there was voter suppression even there. And all across the South, many people that are elected today in public office, from legislatures and Congress, are there not because they won the vote, but because the vote was suppressed, even in places like Virginia. We also know, when we look at systemic poverty, that there are 140 million. I want you to write that down, not 14 million, not 40 million. There are 140 million people living in poverty and low wealth, according to studies that have been done. And we've fleshed out these numbers with scholars from Harvard and Howard and North Carolina Central and also Columbia University. 140 people living in poverty and low wealth. That's 43% of this nation. And COVID, before COVID is over, it will be over 50% of this nation will live in poverty and low wealth. Now, when I say poverty, that does not mean somebody just living on the street. It means persons who are $400 away from an economic catastrophe. You see, the government says that if you're in a family of four, you only need to make $26,000 and you're not in poverty. But the living wage stat says for a family of four, it requires $48,000 a year just to own a used car, just to be able to have meat twice a week and to afford a basic 2-bedroom apartment. The data that the government uses, they use a formula that is 55 years old. And the church must challenge this because, as Jesus said, his first thing was to preach good news to the poor. 43% of this nation lives in poverty. Now, that's 61% of all African Americans, Bishop. 61% of all African Americans live in poverty and low wealth. That's 26 million of the 40-some million Black people in this country. 6 out of 10 African Americans live in poverty and low wealth, even though they may dress good, look good, and feel fine. In terms of economics, they live in poverty and low wealth. But we also know that 66 million white people live in poverty and low wealth. So actually, there are more white people in raw numbers who are poor, but poverty hits the Black community at a percentage higher than any others except for Latinos and Native Americans. That's why today there is a strike for Black Lives Matter, where the Fight for 15, Poor People's Campaign, SEIU, people are striking today virtually and otherwise to draw attention to the economic disparities that impact, and to say that we cannot just address police violence, as vicious and as violent as it is, if we are concerned about the death of someone being killed by police violence. Let me tell you another stat. 700 people die every day from poverty and low wealth. 700 people die. 250,000 people a year. For instance, George Floyd, before he was ever lynched and strangled by that vicious cop in Minnesota, he had COVID. He worked a low-wage job. He lost his job. He didn't have unemployment, didn't have sick leave. He moved to Minnesota to get a job. And when he got a job, it was an essential job without the essential things that he needed. So by the time he was there on that street corner, he was being strangled already economically by systems that do not have to exist. 62 million people in this country make less than a living wage. 62 million people in this country. We also know when it comes to poverty, you have to look at healthcare. And in this country, 80 million people make less than, 80 million people are either uninsured or underinsured. And in the last 2 months, 5 million more people have been added to that, because we are the only country of the wealthiest country that does two things. Number one, see a president and leaders in the Senate try to take away healthcare. No other nation does that of the 25 wealthiest. And the other 25 wealthiest countries, they all make healthcare a matter of human rights, not a matter of your job. They attach healthcare to your humanity, not to your job. So they provide some form of universal healthcare. We're the richest nation in the world. We spend more money on healthcare than any other nation, and yet we do not provide universal healthcare for all of our citizens. And so that means 80 million people are uninsured or underinsured, while every person that gets elected to Congress gets free healthcare. Presidents get free healthcare. Members of state legislatures get free healthcare. Governors get free healthcare. But the people, the constituency, does not receive free healthcare. These are issues that the church must pay attention to. We also know in ecological devastation, there are 4 million families that get up every morning and can buy unleaded gas and can't buy unleaded water. 4 million. And we know just in Virginia, just recently, we had to stop Dominion, the company that was willing to destroy a historic Black community, the pre-Civil War Black community, just for a pipeline that was going to poison the air, was going to create noise poison and poison the environment. And if we had not fought for 6 years to stop them, they would have put that right through Union Hill. It is wrong, it's immoral, and we have to address ecological devastation. Then finally, we spend $800 billion a year on the war economy. And most of the money doesn't go to help the warriors, it goes to military contractors who have bloated budgets. Sometimes they don't even want the money. $800 billion, if we cut that in half, we would still have more money than North Korea, Iran, Iraq, and Russia combined. Right now in this country, we spend 54 cents of every discretionary dollar on the war machinery, on the war economy, and less than 16 cents of every discretionary dollar on education, infrastructure, and healthcare. Dr. King said to us that any nation that puts more in war and militarism than it does in the areas of addressing poverty and healthcare, and where the policies are determined by militarism, is on a spiral toward death. And in Virginia, now those are the macro ones. In Virginia, where you are, 43% of people in Virginia are poor and low wealth, 3.5 million residents, 51% of the children in Virginia, 57% of people of color, 1.7 million, are poor. 35% of white people are poor, 1.8 million. In Virginia, where you are, we have 800,000 people who are uninsured. 800,000 people that are uninsured. 66,000 people are homeless in Virginia. In Virginia, you have to work 131 hours a week at a minimum wage job just to afford a basic 2-bedroom. In Virginia, there are 1.4 million people who work every day, Bishop, every day for under $15 an hour. And there are 700,000 people on food stamps in Virginia. And you said, well, Reverend Barber, why are you just giving us these statistics? Because in this moment, when we see these statistics, that is why we must engage in voting. Voting is not about personality. It is about issues and position. Because everything I listed just then, the United Nations did a report and said all of these things are choices. They are not inevitable. They could be changed if we had the will, we have the resources. The reason they're not changed is because people get elected who refuse to change them and who, instead of having a justice view, instead of following the Bible that they put their hand on when they swear themselves into office and following the Constitution to establish justice, they operate from a neoliberalism perspective that says if you give all the money to people at the top, it'll flow down to the bottom, rather than what Jesus said, if you lift from the bottom, good news to the poor, then everybody will be better. So we have to, first of all, vote issues. When we look at candidates, we need to line these issues up and say, where do they stand on healthcare? Where do they stand on living wages? Where do they stand on the war economy? That's how we judge, not by mere personality. Even in this season, it's not just if you're against the current occupant of the White House, sure, but what are we for? What are we for? And we must vote because voting is theological. Theological. We only give the right to vote to people. We do not give the right to vote to parakeets, puppies, and pets. So when somebody suppresses your right to vote, there is suggesting that, this is bad English, but it's good theology, that you're not a people, that you're not a person. They're suggesting that you're not made in the image of God. And so we must engage and vote. But then in addition to that, the rabbis and the Hebrew scholars tell us that the word vote and the word voice is the same word in Hebrew. It's the word call. It's often used in the Bible to talk about the voice of God, or the voice that God gives people to speak out, call. And the prophets listed their voices, call. And so when we vote, we are exercising our voice. But in that, we have to focus on an agenda. That's what Black Lives Matter is saying. That's what the Poor People's Campaign is saying. It's not just about personality. It literally is about looking at these issues, recognizing that they do not have to be this way. And when we heard, for instance, George Floyd say, "I can't breathe," that phrase, "I can't breathe," is shorthand for how a whole lot of people feel when they're strangled by poverty and the denial of health care. Because before he was killed, 700 people were dying a day from poverty. Before he was killed, something like 2,800 people were dying for every 500,000 people that did not have health insurance. In this culture, this is a moment the church must say to America, America, accepting death is no longer an option. We must challenge every piece of public policy that brings death. If it's denial of health care has a death measurement, denial of living wages has a death measurement, denial of the right of vote has a death measurement, because it allows people to get elected, and when they get elected, they use their power to block the very things that would give us life. And we know that if it produces death, it is not of God, and it doesn't even follow the first principle of our founding documents, which is life. And then finally, we have to not only curse the darkness, have the statistics. The statistics wake us up. But as Nina Simone said, not only must we wake up, we must rise up, because you can be woke and still in bed. You have to rise up, and what it means to rise up is to have an agenda. So we actually have put together an agenda, and I want to share this in closing. If we instituted a $15 minimum wage, we could raise 40 million people out of poverty tomorrow. And actually, if we had the right people in office, we could have a minimum wage in a week. We could have health care the next week. We could do voting rights and the next week. These things are possible if the right people are in place. If we had a housing wage, we could raise 7 to 3 million people out of poverty tomorrow. And if we did a minimum wage of $15 an hour, it would push $368 billion, I see, into the economy. Joseph Stiglitz, who is a Nobel Peace Prize economist, told us the cost of inequality is worse than the cost to fix it. The cost of inequality is worse than the cost to fix it. In other words, as the old people used to say, if we followed God's way, everything would be all right. It's when we choose not to follow God's way as a nation that things are private. And so finally, we know what has to be done. And the church must be engaged in a movement. I could take you through every one of those things. If we cut military, we could produce 945,000 jobs. If we took one military contract, we could fund every state in the South that has denied Medicaid expansion. So the church can't sit on the sidelines. We must be fully engaged. Jeremiah 22 says we have to go down to the ruler's house. And Jesus said, if we claim the filling of the Spirit, then we must be engaged with preaching good news to the poor and setting the oppressed free. And if we do this, God has promised to be with us. God has promised to be with us. Let me stop here for the time's sake. Bishop, I'd love to come back and do a series with your people anytime because there's so much more that we could lay out, but it's important. And I'm so glad that you are a bishop that wants to make sure that your people that you lead know what's going on and therefore know why we must get involved, and we cannot stand down and sit down anymore any longer.
Well, Bishop Barber, you have certainly made us uncomfortable, and that's the objective, to make us uncomfortable enough to want to do something. I think that there are some questions. I know that you're going to be with us for these next 4 annual conferences, and so I know that others will get a chance to formulate their questions, even if they're not panelists in that particular conference, but they'll get a chance to hear you again. I think that in the back room, they are taking the questions now. If in fact you have a question for for Bishop Barber, please come on now and present it in your Q&A. Are there questions or comments?
Bishop, if you send them to me too, I'll actually go through them and answer them and send them back to you.
That is so wonderful. That is so wonderful. That is so wonderful. One of the things that you emphasized was the fact that it's not undoable. We just have to have a mind and a will to get it done. When you ran through the listing of how that is possible, what keeps us from getting those things done?
Well, we know in history, particularly in the world, there are certain ways history's changed. War, pandemics, and mass moral movements. And right now we're seeing the confluence of all 3 of them together. But we know from history that there has been no massive change until there is a mass moral movement where church and religious leaders are involved with people in the street. We had a first Reconstruction, 1868, 1896. That was when churches, pastors, and others came together. The second Reconstruction, the Civil Rights Movement, we saw religious community and others come together, rooted not in partisan politics, but in our deepest moral principles and our deepest constitutional principles. We need a third Reconstruction, Bishop. And it begins with massive voter turnout, but not voting just for personality. We need to raise up people who register for the movement and vote. In other words, we vote on an agenda, not on perfection. We're not going to be voting for Jesus. We vote, we look at the agenda, and whoever gets the highest score on the agenda based on our moral examination, we vote for them. And then after we vote for them, we stay engaged and we continue to push on these issues. Because the reality is, one economist at MIT said, you cannot have 43% of your people living in poverty and low wealth and 50% or more after COVID and think that the bottom of the pyramid is going to be cracked like that and the rest of the pyramid is going to stay together. Eventually, if the foundation is broken, everything is going to fall down. And so this is a moment we need mass mobilization, what I call at the polls, in the streets, and in the suites. And the church is suited for that. That's what we're called to do. I go, finally, Bishop, I go straight to what God said in Amos. He said, look, if I can get a remnant, I don't even need everybody. If I can get a remnant that'll cry in the street, shut down the factory, shut down the house, the stores, and cry and lament and say, not on our watch. God says, when I see that, then I will visit. So this is the moment, and that's why we built the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival, a long-term movement that brings together people of every race, color, and sexuality, because these issues are not inevitable. We have the money, we have the resources, we have the political power. We just need the moral will to do what is right.
Let me ask two questions, and then we're going to go on to the next presentation. One, would you speak directly to the importance of the census and how important that is for us to participate? And two, could you give those of us who really want to be involved how that involvement manifests itself?
Let me, for those that want to be involved, ask you to go to www.breachrepairers.org. And first of all, subscribe. Because when you subscribe, you will get constant updates. You will find out about the movement. You will be able to learn all about the Poor People's Campaign. You will learn about the state campaigns that we have in Virginia, North Carolina, and Washington, D.C., where they are. You will learn about the 200 organizations and the 19 denominational groups and others that are connected to this movement, and why it is so important. So that's one way. Connect yourself to a movement, because we must do more. Mobilizing, organizing, registering, educating people for the movement who vote. On the census, this is the way I like to say it, Bishop. My mother worked on her job 52 years. She desegregated the public schools as a secretary. In her 49th year, the year of going into Jubilee, I asked her, Mother, don't you think it's time for you to retire? My mama said, they didn't want me when I came here. Now I'm going to stay till I get ready to leave. Okay. That's how I feel about the census. First, they didn't count us. Then they counted us as 3/5 of a person. So today, we ought to be filling out the census just because of what was done in the past. You didn't want to count us. So now we're going to make sure we're counted. Because if we don't count it, then that undermines representation in the Congress. It undermines representation in state legislatures. It undermines the amount of money that comes in the communities for uplift and for economic development. We must be counted. Henry McNeil Turner, when he was being put out of the Georgia legislature, he was in the AME church, he said, this is in the 1800s, he said, I'm not coming here today to beg. I am a man and I will be counted. He said, no other nation has ever tried to discount people simply because of the accident of God, and that is their color. And Henry McNeil Turner said, I refuse to be told that I'm not a part of this body. We ought to be registering for the census out of pure protest, that we protest every effort that ever tried to discount us. And we are going to be counted now, henceforth, and forevermore.
Barbara, I cannot tell you, Bishop, how much we appreciate your taking time out of your schedule. We are going to be supportive of the Poor People's Campaign, and you will see our support tangibly as we move forward. We have our planning meeting in August. You will see that we want to give some of the resources that allows you as a representative of our community to keep on fighting. So we thank you. We thank you for joining us today. We thank you for the enlightenment that you bring. We thank you for the passion that every time we hear you, you bring to the podium and to the microphone. So thank you very, very much. And we will see you we'll see you day after tomorrow as we move towards the Baltimore annual conference. We'll see you day after tomorrow in the Baltimore annual conference. Thank you again. God bless everybody. Wherever you are, put your hands together and just say we love you. We appreciate you. Keep good fight up. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lamar.
All right. God bless. One of the things that we have done, if you would bring Reverend Lamar, Reverend Cross, Reverend Savage, and to the stage now, to the platform. One of the things we've done is throughout the entire district, we have put together a major task force which allowed the representatives of every conference to identify how we might be involved in a more serious way in our own future. Dr. Lamar, come on and give us the introduction to the Faith and Fairness and Justice Task Force assignment. And we're going to take these 15 minutes and before we adjourn and meet the Women Missionary Society. Dr. Lamar.
Thank you, Bishop and Mother Davis, to the presiding elders, pastors, delegates, laity of the Virginia Annual Conference. Thank you for these moments to share. Our Bishop, in his vision, has convened us through the Faith and Fairness and Justice Task Force so that we can take the macro presentation of Bishop William Barber and enact what needs to happen on the micro level, on the ground level, at the granular level. And so we know in Virginia, a very important state electorally, a very powerful state. It's very hard to get to the White House. It's very hard to control national politics without going through Virginia. We wanted to convene and to have a conversation built upon what Dr. Barber has shared. Now, Dr. Barber's leaned into Jesus's declaration of what his ministry was about in Luke chapter 4. And we know in Luke 4, Jesus is quoting Isaiah. He is leaning into his tradition, and he is saying that because the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, I am called to move where the poor are and to bring good news. I am called to proclaim release to those who are captive, recovery of sight to the blind, to let the oppressed go free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. That is what Jesus saw the Holy Spirit's anointing calling him to do. And the Holy Spirit is calling us to do likewise in these moments. And so what we have done is put together a presentation to help pastors and local churches to do the work of Jesus, to do the work of the Holy Spirit in your communities. And so Reverend Savage has a presentation that he will share, and these presentations will be shared in every annual conference. And he will conclude with organizations with which you can partner to help make Virginia what the Lord would have Virginia to be, and to encourage us in local issues, and to make sure that we turn out a strong vote. Thank you, Bishop. Reverend Savage.
Indeed.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bishop Davis. Thank you, Dr. Lamar. I'm going to prepare to share my screen for our Faith and Fairness and Justice presentation. All right. 1 second to present the slideshow. All right. Good morning, Virginia Annual Conference. I'm sure, like you, as I watch Dr. Bishop Barber's presentation, as the marchers chanted to get on fire, I wanted to get on fire. As they chanted to get in the fight, I wanted to get in the fight. And the purpose of this brief 10-minute presentation is just to show you how we as the Virginia Annual Conference can catch on fire right where we are, how we as the Virginia Annual Conference can get in the fight right where we are. In the document that I'm sure you all will receive that was prepared by the district level Faith and Fairness and Justice Task Force, you will find this opening statement: pastors and indeed congregations can do the work of social transformation from within our congregations. Do not minimize your level of influence or power. Your congregation can partner with grassroots organizations. They want to connect with you. This is a tremendous opportunity for pastors and laypersons to engage our congregation in theologizing about these times and what role the church can play in making a difference. And so we want to share with you some of the possible local partners in Virginia. We want to reiterate that we do not want to minimize our level of influence or power here in Virginia specifically. We can partner with grassroots organizations because much of the policies that Bishop Barber shared with us, minimum wage, for instance, access to healthcare, the expansion of healthcare, those policies are decided at the state and local level, and therefore must be agitated at the state and local level. And so here are a few organizations that are already on the ground here in Virginia that we would encourage every congregation in the Virginia Annual Conference to partner with, because these organizations will march with you in lockstep in order to make justice happen in our Commonwealth. The first organization we want to share are Virginians Organized for Interfaith Community Engagement, otherwise known as VOICE. The website is printed for you on the screen, and it is mostly located in Northern Virginia. VOICE really has emerged as one of the leading progressive grassroots organizations in the state of Virginia. And if you would go to their website, www.voice/iaf.org, you can discover many of the legislative victories that they have already won. And we do have one church currently partnering, at least one church currently partnering with them, First AME Church in Manassas. And while they are in the Washington Annual Conference, they're located in Virginia, and Reverend Atoria Goggins is the pastor. And so if we have any churches that are located in Richmond and north of Richmond, you may want to get in contact with Reverend Goggins and VOICE so that you can partner with them. Number two, we have the Virginia Interfaith Center for Public Policy. This is a grassroots organization with a statewide presence in local chapters. So indeed, wherever you are in the state of Virginia, you can connect with this organization. Just as I shared with VOICE, if you go to their website, www.virginiainterfaithcenter.org, you can see many of the legislative and local victories that they have already won and what they are fighting for currently. They have, as I just stated, presence across the entire state. And so we really do encourage you, wherever you are, from the mountains to the shore, to connect with this organization. New Mount Olive is currently connected with them as a partner organization. And so I would love to field any questions you may have about becoming involved with this organization. Next, we have the New Virginia Majority. It also has a statewide presence. You can discover them at www.newvirginiamajority.org. And we have one more. Dr. Cross will share about that organization.
Okay, thank you, Reverend Savage, and to each and every one of you, and to Bishop. Virginia Block is a Black Leadership Organizing Collaborative in St. Paul and Newport News. We have been in contact with them. They have been to our church. We have worked with them throughout the years since I've been there as well, and before I even became the pastor there. Located in the Hampton and the Newport News area. This organization, they are really interested in helping to make sure that we understand what we are voting for. I have made contact with them just recently to see if we can have a conference with them to see what are the major issues and what we should be concerned about in the upcoming election in November. I work directly with that group, Virginia Block. We have worked with them, and I'm pleased to say I'm sure Bethel AME Church in Hampton has also been a part of working with Virginia Block. The delegate of that 95th district, Delegate Marcia Price, her father, who is the mayor of that area as well as Congressman Scott, we have all been working hand in hand. It is time that we began to make some changes, I would recommend that you get in contact with them. The website is there, www.va-block.org. When I get information that they will be able to do a conference call or set up a conference call, I would share that information with the churches within that area, or if they would be willing to meet and share with other churches. I also would recommend that you continue to be in contact with many of our national associations, such as the NAACP. That website is there for you. It is nationwide. Also, the National Urban League, the website is there for you as well, and it is a nationwide organization. I am so happy to be able to share in the presentation today that we've had, and I am on fire. Pray that each of you will begin to get on fire and begin to make a change. We cannot sit down any longer, but we can put our voices together and make a change. And even though we are shut in, we are not shut out. Let's try to put our creative things together to see how can we make a change and get more people in to vote. I am willing to work. I'm willing to work with the churches in our area, and anyone got any creative ways that what we can do, even though we're in, we can certainly get out and make a difference. I'm going to ask at this time if Reverend Savage would kind of share with each of you the issues that we are facing within the Virginia area.
Yes, and so I can go through this very quickly. We're not going to delve deeply into each of these issues, but we certainly want to, as Bishop Barber shared, we want to focus on state and local elections, increasing access to that. One of the ways that Virginia is seeking to that is right now, local elections are not on the same day as state elections, which itself is not on the same day as national elections. There is a movement in Virginia now to unify the dates of local, state, and national elections in November, and to make that date a national holiday, a statewide holiday, so that we can increase access and power at local levels, which will include increasing power on city, county councils, as well as local school boards. Number two, and Voice is really leading in this effort to continue a moratorium on the eviction proceedings during the COVID-19 crisis. We see participation in the census, which is what our bishop has just shared and Bishop Barber has spoken of. And of course, we have the issues of healthcare in Black communities, police reform, internet accessibility in low-income areas and on the Eastern Shore, judicial system, African-American representation and influence, as well as holding local school boards accountable. That concludes our brief presentation. I want to conclude by sharing a piece of advice that was shared by Saul Alinsky in his book, Rules for Radicals, in which he encourages us to know that power is organized people and organized money. And so what we have presented for you are organizations that organize people so that we can maintain and gather power for those persons who have been dispossessed in our Commonwealth. And as Bishop Davis says, and so we encourage every church to leave this meeting and to go out and contact those organizations so that you can be part of organized people. But before we leave this meeting, I want to add this in there. Bishop Davis has just shared, we're going to tangibly bless national organizations that you saw on that slideshow, as well as Black Lives Matter. And so I want to encourage you to prepare ourselves to give so that we can also say, on one hand, we have organized people, on one hand, we have organized money, and that will increase our power to make a difference here in Virginia and throughout the 2nd Episcopal District. Thank you, Bishop Davis, and that concludes the Virginians Faith and Fairness and Justice Task Force, unless Dr. Lamar has any more to add.
No, sir, thank you.
Let me thank Dr. Lamar and Reverend Watley, who have led the group in making sure that these kind of reports were available in every annual conference. The issue, though, is this, and we keep on saying it: everybody ought get involved at some level. I mean, this is too important for us to sit back and not find our own place to get involved. Get involved. There's a place for you. Whatever it is that you believe that God has gifted you with, there is a place to get involved. You need to be on the right side of history. And what this group is doing is really exposing opportunities. They're not the exhausted list. There are other ways of getting involved, but get involved. Don't sit there and let history pass you by. One of the things that we looked at in the last 2 days as we have celebrated, in the process of celebrating even more, the life of John Lewis. It is wonderful to celebrate what Congressman Lewis has done, and he has truly been an ambassador for the right causes throughout history. And he put himself on the line. But look at what's happening now. We have a responsibility of raising up the next generation of unselfish leaders. Thereby, a William Lamar, a Christian Savage, and all others who work with them. We have the wherewithal right now to say to our people, lead us in the direction of making the connection work. Get involved, get involved, get involved, get involved. Wherever you are, get involved. The suggestion was made, and then I'm going to let you go. The suggestion was made, even if you didn't do anything else, but on the day of election, just get some water, go out and make the people comfortable as they're in line. Find your place, but get involved. Find your place, but get involved. And so I thank Reverend Lamar. I thank those in the Virginia Annual Conference, all of them, the whole committee. We heard from 2 of them, but there's a committee in the Virginia Annual Conference. And we thank you for your contribution and pouring into those who spoke on your behalf. I think that now, Janet and those in the background, we are encouraging you to go to the platform to be in worship at 12 o'clock with the Women's Missionary Society as they close out their day. We congratulate them on a wonderful, wonderful annual meeting, and they're going on right now. But at 12 o'clock, we want to meet up with them to hear the sermon which they have, the worship service that they have prepared for us. And I ask all of us to go to the platform where they are. I think it's up on the screen. And if you're on the phone, go to the, I think they're going to make it a little larger for all of us. If you're on the telephone, you have somewhere else. Thank you so very much. You can see where you're supposed to go as a result of getting with the Women's Missionary. Don't let them down. Don't fail. Don't fail to go there. Be a part of support for them. I want to thank you, all of you. We have made it through the first session of the Virginia Annual Conference, and it did not kill us. Yeah, we managed to stay in harmony one with another, and we look forward to your coming back with us at 1:30. At 1:30, but you're going to the worship service in just about a few minutes with the Women's Missionary Society, and you have until 1:30 to actually have as a break after the women's service. It's a short service, and so please go, please go, please go. God bless you. Won't you recite with me, every member a Christian, every Christian a worker, every worker trained, every trained worker saved, every saved worker a tither. This we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. God bless you. See you at 1:30.
Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you've enjoyed our discussions with the Conference Institute on social relevant issues, as well as our segment on Faith and Fairness and Justice Task Force. Don't change that channel. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. Up next, after our brief 30-minute break, we'll view the always inspiring Women's Missionary Society's WMS Annual Night in White worship experience that captures our souls. 11:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Following this dynamic presentation, guess what? A leisurely 60-minute break. Before you dash out, would you like to know what's coming up next after your break? Our next business session continues at 1:36 p.m. Get ready. Next, we have more committee reports and virtual pastors reports. Times have changed, and so have the reports. Yes, we have the numbers that tell a story. Beyond the numbers, we have innovation, how worship and study changed. Behind the numbers, we have preparation. What makes online ministry possible? Before the numbers, we have information, how technology extends to new audiences. Between the numbers, we have transformation, why gospel focus must remain. After the intermission,